Well, I'm live. Let me turn on a little backlight here. Looks like I'm a little bit dark. Might all turn on the lamp here. Give a little backlight. Whoops. So you can see my fat face. I thought I would get in here and see if I can get a few of the chatters in here and talking, and everything is Sunday morning. I had an eventful weekend so far. Hopefully I will be able to take it a little bit easy today. That's the goal anyway, is to take it a little bit easier. To update, I think I've solved my Mac problem. I had kind of reached out for some help with my iMac, and I feel like I've got that resolved now. I'm just going to use a Bluetooth speaker. The iMac that I bought a refurbished one and got a great deal. It's a very powerful iMac. It's got the i7 processor and a real good processor, and I'm happy with that. But the sound did not work, so I tried a USB speaker. Of course, that you still have to plug into the 3.5 dongle. So I didn't have any luck with that. So I went ahead and just got a Bluetooth headset, and that worked. So I said, well, I'll just get a Bluetooth speaker. So I went down to Wally World and picked up a little Bluetooth speaker, and that seems to work out just fine. And so that should resolve the problem with that. And the past 2 days, I've worked my keister off with the trucks. I've had to get out, and I had to Friday I had to recover a driver who was running out of hours on. He was one of my Greensboro drivers, and I had to recover him because he, like I said, he was running out of hours, and he was going to have to be shut down in Charlotte. So I just caught him en route down on I-85, which is not but 10 or 12 miles from me. I just met him down truck stop, had my wife drop me off down there, ran his rest of his route for him on into Greensboro, then was able to catch a load back and brought some loads back from Greensboro, and then was able to kind of kill two birds with one stone, because I've sold off 5 of my routes in Greensboro. So I'm needing to transport those trucks back down to the Charlotte area. So I was able to get one of those trucks transported back now. Now, the reason that I'm just taking it a little at a time, because I'm actually still working those routes until the transition is completed. So I'm still making money on the routes too. So I'm no biggie. And I'm kind of transitioning that over to the new contractor. Well, he's not a new contractor. He's an established contractor that I sold to within the FedEx system. That's the beauty of what we've got with FedEx. We can sell our routes if we want to. Now, I've been with them. This is my 32nd year I'm coming up on, and I've got a lot of good routes. But that being said, I'm getting some age on me, and I'm going to get out eventually. And I'm kind of capture some of this capital I have in it. And at that token, we're also going to take some of those units and repurpose them in Savannah, Georgia, which I like Savannah a lot better. Savannah is a lot easier on my equipment. The routes down there, I mean, you're looking at just running routes that are on the flat. We don't worry about weather. A lot of different things that I have to deal with up here in the Carolinas. I mean, the Carolinas doesn't get too much bad weather, but some of the routes I drive into do get bad weather. In other words, I have a couple of Beckley, West Virginia routes, and they are, they get they have a chance of getting in there and really having some tough weather a lot. A lot of the times when you're going into West Virginia, I mean, we get a lot of snow that we have to deal with going into West Virginia. I'd like to sell those routes off one of these first days and concentrate more on my southern routes. I've got my southern routes, and unfortunately, I did sell off a couple of southern routes over in Greensboro, but I wanted to just to kind of calm back down and pull away from Greensboro. Greensboro is about a 3-hour drive for me to get a 2.5 to 3 hour drive to get up to the terminal. So if I have any issue with any equipment, then if it's there on the yard and I have an issue, I have to deal with, the expense of hiring somebody to fix it, or even if I can get it fixed, or missing a load, just a lot of different things. But the beauty of having trucks down here in Charlotte and all the southern routes, I've got my shops down here. Now we're going to have to establish maybe a shop in the Savannah area, and hopefully we can do that without too much trouble, and get over there and do that for a little bit. But yesterday, well, like I say, was with the past 2 days, like I say, were eventful. I had the one on Friday night that I had to finish up, and then got back in, got a little bit of sleep, and then I got a phone call that I had a breakdown in the gorge, which is up on I-40. It wasn't a major breakdown, but it was something I still had to address. It was a low power issue, basically. The truck wasn't pulling good. All of a sudden, it started not pulling good. The truck was almost due for service anyway. Part of it may be service related. The fuel filter didn't look that bad. I checked all the hoses. I checked everything out. I think what we've got, I wish Matt would jump in here. But I think what I've got, I think it's either a V-Pod problem or let me scratch my eyes there a second. A V-Pod problem or one of the other sensors that relate to the turbo, because I don't think it's probably going to get what they call a VNT error on it, which is not letting the vanes of the turbo open up wide enough to give enough boost, because that was the problem when I got in the truck. The boost wasn't there. It was just kind of sluggish. And I mean, and when it's sluggish, bobtailing, and I was just bobtailing out. It's sluggish when it's got 80,000 pounds behind it. And the driver she said that it was doing fine. And she pulled Black Mountain, did everything fine. Then all of a sudden, that as she was approaching the gorge up there, she said she started losing power and had downshift and everything else. And she pulled it over into the rest area and stopped it and called me. And I'm glad she did. I mean, I would have had more aggravation and everything else. And she had she was still only about halfway on her trip. She was headed to Caryville, Tennessee, which is almost up to the Kentucky line. And so that's up above Knoxville, Tennessee, Caryville is. And that would have been a pretty good little haul to have to go all the way up there to switch her out or repair it or whatever. And so I'm glad she stopped where she did. And I was able to get over there in about 2 hours, and 2 hours up, 2 hours back. So I killed about 4 or 5 hours of my time yesterday just doing that recovery. But that's the nature of the you're at the mercy of mechanical issues, and they're all trucks. I don't care whose truck it is, what kind of maintenance you do, whatever. Even if you buy a brand new truck, I'm gonna tell you this: brand new. I have bought brand new factory right off the showroom floor type trucks, you'll have issues with those too. They're they're not they're not free of any kind of mechanical problems. The brand new trucks are just like the others. Now you do kind of get a let's say I call it a $75,000. I'm sending it 75,000 mile, not dollar, 75,000 mile kind of cushion that you don't have as much problem. I mean, because they have, when you get it straight from the factory, it's tight, it's nice and everything. But then occasionally, now you'll have some that will boom right off the bat. I had some Macs a couple of years ago that were like that, and they were going through injector cups right and left, and I knew they were going to be a major issue because while they were still under warranty, I mean, I had the injector cups go down. I mean, had problems with injector cups almost immediately, within the first 15, 20,000 miles. And I knew that wasn't a good sign, but you live with it. They were 2008 models and they were brand new. And that was the first year that all the regen and everything else was coming out. So I should have been smarter and waited a few years to see what that was all about. But I jumped in there and bought some trucks and regretted it ever since on those. Really lost my keister on those trucks, and as many times as they were in the shop, it was pathetic. Now since then, now we've moved forward to the newer trucks. They're getting better. Now there's still issues with all these sensors, and here's the problem I have. You if you take a look at the trucks, say from 2006 back, especially say 2003 back, the non-EGR trucks gave us very, very little trouble, and they had not as many sensors. Today's trucks have so many computer sensors. I mean, just for every little thing you can think of, they have a sensor, and it takes a technician with a laptop to go out there and solve these problems. Now, it may not be a major problem. The issue is it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to get the technician. I mean, they'll pop you for anywhere from $200 to $300-$400 just to hook the laptop up, going in to find out if there is a problem. And I mean, of course, you already know it's a problem. Check engine lights coming on. It's derated. Things like that are already happening. So there's an issue, but you just have to wait and see what they're going to say. But you live with it. You go about it, and that's the wave of the future as trucking is now. Trucking is not the old easy, well, let's change out a fuel filter or grease it, keep running. Got a turbo hose broke, boom, water hose. Those type days are over. Now you're coupled together with the new computerized issues. I had a truck one time. It was one of those Macs, as I was speaking of, that was coming out of Birmingham, Alabama. And it was during the warranty process, it was new, everything. And then my drivers called me and said, the truck won't run. The sensors come on. The check engine lights come on. It's derated it down so it won't pull but 15 miles an hour. Basically, all they could do is put on the four ways and get off the ramp, the next exit ramp. Well, they made it up to a truck stop, made it up to I think it was a Petro or a TA or something. And they pulled in their shop. Their shop looked at it, and they hooked up to it, and they go, we can't do anything about it. We don't have the equipment to fix it. We don't know what it's all about. You're going to have to have it towed to the dealership. So at that juncture, I had to call FedEx. We had to get the loads recovered. I lost the money that I was going to make for that load, because I had to give it up. Then we had to have it towed from Birmingham, Alabama to Charlotte. It was under warranty. Okay. They paid for it. They paid for the warranty. They didn't pay for the tow. They paid for the warranty on the equipment. So the tow bill was $1,800. I got up to Mack Truck. The warranty was a $13 exhaust clamp off the DPF box because it had broken, and of course I didn't know it. Nobody else knew it. We couldn't tell. I mean, it was given all these computer errors and everything. And what it was, it broke that clamp, and it wasn't letting enough what they call particulates go into the DPF. By doing that, it shut the truck down. It basically took it down. It derated the truck. And you could only, like I said, go 15, 20 miles an hour. There was no way for me to know that, and because it was such a new system. So I paid $1,800 on a tow bill for a $13 clamp that was under warranty. So they paid for the $13. I paid for the $1,800. It hurts. It hurts. And then, like I said, if had that been the older trucks, here's the scenario. My drivers would have probably said, we're smelling some exhaust fumes, or the truck's getting louder. We would bring it in, we'd check it, maybe flex pipe would be cracked, there'll be a little smoke on something, no problem. We'd fix it and go on. The truck wouldn't have been derated. The problem with these new ones is the truck itself says you can't go at full force. We're not going to let this truck run. That's basically what it does. I mean, they're restricting you from getting emissions put out into the air. But that is part of the problem with the newer trucks. That's just one small issues. And they've got these big DPF filters, and they're very expensive, very expensive. So you have to, you get in there, and I think the filters are, I'm hearing, so what are they, about 4,000? No, the box that handles them. And this is the other problem you get, this new. That's per truck. So if you're like me and I've got 30 something trucks, do the multiples, very expensive. The filters themselves, I think, are $1,500. Now you can $1,500 to $2,000. Now you can get them cleaned, and of course the cleaning usually costs about $300 to $400 to get them baked. I mean, that's what they basically do. That they bake them. Now there's some guys out there. I'm checking with some buddies that are doing it differently, and they're cleaning the filters differently, and not having to go through the baking process and saving that $300 or $400 there. So there are, the beauty that we have out there right now is there's been enough hackers, I guess you might, truck hackers, that have been able to help us out, I guess. They're experimenting. They're doing the things that you need to be done to kind of get around the government regulations and getting around the expensive fixes that the dealerships want you to do. Now, some people say, well, you shouldn't do it. Take it back to the dealership, do it right. You got to survive out there first. You've got to survive. You can look at this several different ways, but the truck owner has got to make it profitable. He cannot take every single thing to a dealership. These large farms and large farmers are having problems because they can't get the software and can't get the help and support without taking these huge pieces of equipment back to the dealer. And then they've lost their time and everything with the dealer. So it's pretty tough. But that being said, the trucking is trucking. We all have to adapt. I wish I could go back to the old 300 Cummins that I started with, or 290. I believe it was a 290 Cummins I had. All you worried about back then was belts, hoses, and tires, and that was the major issues. And now the major issues are DPF, sensors, all kinds of EGR valves, all kinds of things like that. So those problems, we're trying to get ourselves up to the point where we can fix those quickly. It's tough. It's tough learning every single nuance that you're going to get with these trucks. So you live with it. You go for it. You live with it, and hopefully, we'll get better and kind of keep on the same playing field, I guess you might say, with the trucks. In other words, you don't want to get where the truck repair is this much and you're down here. You kind of want to be an even keel where you can afford. I see a lot of guys that don't have their own shops that they're at the mercy of a factory shop, and it's tough, real tough. And I see guys go out of business because of this, because they feel like, some of them run them till they quit, and you can't do that. You've got to look at these trucks on a daily basis and make sure that you're not letting something go out that possibly could break down on the road. Because I can give you tons of examples. You go out and have a little water hose you got on several trucks, you got a little water hose that's probably about that long. It goes from the one of the necks over on the over on the thermostat, back to the thermostat housing, back over to the motor, and a few other things like that, and a couple kind of crossover over the intake manifold. Little small hoses. Those things, we had to really double check those, because those are the ones that will pop on you going down the road sometimes. And some of the service guys will overlook them, say, oh yeah, that hose looks fine. If you don't fix them, if you don't replace them on a regular basis, that item that probably cost me $5 at most will cost me $400 out on the road. Could lose me the loads, could cost me, points and everything with FedEx, just a lot of different things. So you have to really look at the small items sometimes to make sure that it doesn't turn into a big ticket item. And I've had that to happen. I've had that to happen numerous times, more times than I like to admit. But we try to minimize those also. We try to have sort of kits in there also that the drivers might can repair a few small things. Trying to make our drivers do major repairs, but it's awfully bad to have them sitting on the side of the road when you know something as simple as a $5 fix that they could do themselves would put them back on the road and get them back. And you'd be surprised how many times that happens. I'm going to have to put a video out of the different things that we do and the things that we put in our trucks so we can help the driver. Because, everybody knows about duct tape, and duct tape's a great thing. But, we use duct tape. I can use baking soda with glue and a few other things is a great repair. A lot of people don't know that. You can take baking soda and just some super glue, and you can make something as hard as a brick out of that. And it can do a major repair for you sometimes. You can take the baking soda and put it on, even like a hose. You can take it and rub it on the crack See if you can get inside the crack of the hose and get the baking soda up on it good, and then put super glue on top of that, and then clamp that back together. It makes a seal so hard you can't hardly break it apart. And that's something that a lot of people don't know about. Now, some people are not mechanical. I understand they can't do that. I tried to learn a lot of these tricks. I've learned a lot of other ones too. Some related to air. I mean, you have air governors that give a lot of problems sometimes. You have, I'm trying to think. What else have we got? The air valves and say frozen air lines. There's a lot of good fixes for that too. I'll need to do that sometime and see what I can put out. I've got about 40 years experience out on the road. Knowledgeable I will seem to some people, but I'll try my best. Well, guys, I'm going to get off. There's some other guys that are going to have chat rooms started. I'll jump over there and probably chat some. And I've enjoyed talking with you. I'm going to get off here and let y'all get about your Sunday morning. And hopefully we'll see some guys out there later. See you guys.